Good morning. I'm just going to give this a moment or two to allow our attendees to join this morning. Okay, I think we should make a start. To our webinar this morning from Awesome Tech Training on the topic of building websites, but specifically why choose WordPress. So you went too soon there, Steve.
I did.
A few housekeeping points just before we get started. You will notice as you join that your microphones are all muted. So we can't hear you, we can't hear any of your kind of background noise and so on, but hopefully you can hear us and see us. We are recording the session today so that we can get a link out to you after the session is finished, and that will come with a copy of the slides and so on, so you can watch back all of the materials and refer to the slides and some of the links and things that are being shown today at a later date. Please do ask questions as they occur to you. You'll see that there's a Q&A function on the Zoom control panel, and please, we do invite questions during the session. If you send those through as they occur to you, we'll try and answer them as we go along. We do have a little bit of time at the end as well to answer some questions live. So yeah, don't be shy. Please pop any in there as they come up. So a few introductions. My name's Rachel. I'm on the business development team here at Awesome Tech Training. I've got two colleagues on the line with me today. I've got Lorna Walker, who is one of our trainers, but is mostly in the background today, helping me with questions and so on. But our main presenter for today is Steve Hanlon. So Steve, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rachel. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to go through the agenda and what we'll just go through over the next hour. So first of all, I'll speak a little bit about ourselves, who Awesome Tech Training are, and the kinds of things that we do and we can help you with. And then we'll get into the meat of it. So we'll talk about what is a website, what is it that we're trying to achieve with WordPress and with content management systems, and different alternatives that are out there. So the kinds of things that we'll be thinking about when we're sort of setting up a new site. We'll look at what is it that makes WordPress popular, and what aspects of it should we be sort of considering and thinking about. And then we'll have a look at some specific bits. So we'll look at some particular aspects, some particular implementations and plugins that we can use to build out our site, and then look at different next steps as well that we can take. And hopefully you'll have some resources to go away with at the end of it as well. So a little bit about us. We are Awesome Tech Training, and we're primarily focused on helping small businesses and individuals take control of their web presence. So that's really sort of about their website, and also the different tools and the different things you might do on the web, like your social media and your marketing, and the whole way that you sort of engage with using the web. We can help you there. And our main product is how to build a website in one day with WordPress. So this is something that prior to COVID, we were going out and we would take a room full of people and we'd go through it in a day. We've got a video version of that, so you can take it in a self-paced manner and go through all of the content from sort of first setting up your site right the way through to sort of building it out and then being able to make it live. So we do that, and you can also work with us as well one-to-one, and you can work with us if you need advice and support as well. So we're here to be able to help you with that, and you can book time with us. And there are other webinars like this as well. So if you bob onto the website, or if you check these slides when you get them through later, these links will take you through to the booking pages, and it'll show you the kinds of things that you can book onto. And because you're here today, we've got discounts and special offers and things that you can take advantage of, and I'll cover those at the end of the webinar. So we're going to have a think about what is it that we're doing with the website? What is it actually? Not philosophically, but actually practically, what is this thing we call a website? And practically, a website is really just a mix of text, so the HTML that makes up the content that we might see here. You'd see things like this, and media, and also scripting and actions that take place as well. So it's a mixture of different things that all pulled together will create a moving interactive site which you can use. Now, years ago, we used to put those out. We'd used to have specialists who build them. So we'd have web designers and coders who would do these things. But a lot of that basic building is now sort of wrapped up within systems like WordPress and content management systems, which will look after a lot of the technical side of it. And you can focus really on the content that you want to put out. And so we'll sort of take a quick first look at WordPress. So this is the admin page, which we'll bob into a bit later as well. But a CMS is really something that will manage all the different parts of your website. So it'll be the text and your content. It'll be sort of your forms, maybe on your contact page. But it'll also look after things like the navigation and the way that maybe your site talks to Google and the way that it sort of says what the things it does to sort of websites like Google and Bing and others. So there are technical things that are going on in the background that the CMS basically hides from you, and so you don't have to worry about it. And then it also looks after the look and feel of your site as well. So that sort of template or design of your site will also be encapsulated and managed within the CMS as well. So it's really doing a lot of work for you in looking after your website. And so there's lots of CMSs out there. And this is really just a handful of those. And we've just pulled a few logos out, and you'll see we've got things like, say, Magento and Shopify. So there's a proper mix. Magento and Shopify would be, say, e-commerce webinars. We might have webinars. CMSs, we've got CMSs like Umbraco, which is specifically for Microsoft and Windows, more technical style CMSs. So there's a range of content management systems that effectively address different things and different requirements. Two of the things that you probably have seen around are Squarespace and Wix. These are subscription-based, web-based CMSs, really. Sites where you can go on, pay a monthly subscription, and then build your website over there. There's an extra sort of side to WordPress as well. There's WordPress.org and WordPress.com. And WordPress.com very much falls into the category like Squarespace and Wix, which is sort of a subscription-based version of WordPress. What we're going to be looking at today mostly is WordPress.org. So this is something that you'd be able to get more through, say, your hosting company. But this is a good range of CMSs here. And if we look at one of the most popular CMSs out there, you'll see that WordPress by far has many more installations than the others. So the number of sites, and this relates to the number of people using them. And think of it also as the number of people who understand it, people who you can call on to help. WordPress has 50% of the content management system share out there. So what that means is that as you're browsing the internet, if you come across a site that is run on a CMS, then there's a 50% chance that it's going to be WordPress, and it drops away very quickly. So Wix is the next one. and that's a paid CMS, as we just sort of mentioned. You pay the subscription, and that's down to about 7%. And ditto Squarespace. And there's a lot of money spent by those two within the market on trying to make sure that they get customers and they get you using their systems. So even with the ton of money that they spend, you're really only looking at about 11% of the market. And Joomla and Shopify are other good systems as well. And this was sort of earlier, a couple of months ago, when we pulled out these numbers. So when they are there, why shouldn't we just use one of these? They're out there already. Well, some of them, so things like Wix and Squarespace, they cost money. So what you're looking at is the difference between a website that will cost you a certain amount every month in order to use the CMS versus something that is effectively free. Again, probably more importantly even is that they're niche. And so they'll sort of like limit you in the kinds of things that you can do. An e-commerce site is going to be very much sort of tailored towards the e-commerce side of your business, but it may not necessarily support as well some of the marketing things that you want to do. And you don't own it. So one of the things that you find within something like Wix and Squarespace is the actual ownership of the site and the things that you have to do if ever you need to move it away. You may remember things like MySpace. So a lot of people a few years ago invested a lot of time and effort in building out their MySpace as their primary source of contact on the internet. So a lot of people in the arts industry sort of used it for doing that. And then it went through a number of changes. It went, it was sold and it was moved on. Facebook popped up. And so over a period of time, all of that work that was put into people using MySpace, that the value of that diminished to the point where sort of about a year ago or so, they just announced that they'd lost all of the images that people had uploaded to the site. Effectively, all of that work was lost when MySpace changed. And so that sort of control over your site and the things that you're trying to do, you kind of want to keep hold yourself, or at least have as much control over it as possible. The other thing about WordPress, when you're looking at it in the context of other CMSs, is that it is used by large organizations as well. So it's not just small businesses or medium-sized businesses or individual hobbyists or whatever who are using it. There are some big names out there who are using it. And so if we think about what then makes it WordPress popular when people have been looking at the other CMSs, well, as we discussed, really, one of the most compelling things is that it's free. It being free is a really important sort of, it means it's really powerful. So if you've got an idea, if you've got a project, or you want to spin something up and try it out, you can just get some hosting or download it, spin up a site, and very, very quickly at a very, very low cost, get something out there and test the market, or just start speaking to people and doing things. And so that is really quick and easy to do with something that's free. It's been based and built on an open source ethic as well. And an open source ethic means that at the core, fundamentally, something will be free. And that open source sort of ethic also means that a lot of people adopt it and a lot of people understand it as well. So a lot of people worry about open source and feels that either it's not as good as something that you've paid for, or that you're not going to get the same level of support. Open source really just means that the code that sits behind it is freely available. And so It means that if you wanted to make changes to it, then you could within, say, the any restrictions within the license, but it's all there and you can find that out. It means that if you needed a developer to sort of like tweak it a little bit, then you should be able to do that. And the other thing to bear in mind when you're thinking about things that are open source is that a lot of the core of the internet also runs on open source. So things like Facebook and Google and Amazon, right at the core of those is a whole heap of open source different systems that have been out there and been adopted to build their systems. And you've got exactly the same right to build out your website and build out things as well using that open source code. It's really easy to set up. So in the simplest way, you can just go to a hosting company. You might have a domain or an idea of what it is that you want to do. And some hosting companies will just do a WordPress hosting package. So something like that, you simply sort of sign up. You might have a free trial. And when you log in, you go straight into the WordPress system and it's all there already set up for you. Some hosting companies have a one-click install. So you get the hosting, you click a button, and then you've got your WordPress site. And even if you had to download it and install it, it's a fairly straightforward thing to do once you understand what's going on. But there's lots of easy ways of getting WordPress, the WordPress.org, running quickly. And the other thing that it's good for is blogging. Well, it started out as a blogging system. And so just getting content out and starting to talk to people is a very easy process. But over the years, it's built out and you've got pages and different kinds of things that you can do. And so I think probably it might actually be a good time to just take a quick look and sort of see what we've got with something like WordPress. If I'm saying it's fairly easy to use, let's see. So this is a straight vanilla install of WordPress, to be honest. So this is 5.5.3. The new version 5.6 comes out on Thursday, I think. So we'll show you the current version. This is a demo site. This is sort of like a home page, which in its sort of vanilla state just shows some blog posts and shows different bits. You've got pages, and then behind the scenes, you've got this admin system that I showed you earlier, the dashboard, and you have the different types of things that you can create on the site. So posts, pages. So you think of posts as your blog posts, pages as the different pages on the site. And your media are things like images and PDFs or other things, videos that you might want to upload and share on your site. And you can have lots of other things as well on your site. And we'll bob into those in a minute. But say you just wanted to throw up a new page, or you wanted to change your home page, but if you wanted to just create a new page, you'd sort of pop into here. You might add a new page. I'll do a little bit of introducing the first time you go in. And you can just start typing. So you can, hello world. This is my first page. And in a sense, you could just sort of start typing. If we previewed that, you'll see that within this look and feel of the site as it comes when it's installed, it'll create a page with the title, some bits of information around it, and the text that I've entered. And then you can start to sort of prettify it or introduce different things by adding different blocks. And so WordPress will sort of let you drop different elements onto the page, like images and forms and stuff like that. So if you're used to, say, a WYSIWYG sort of drag and drop style editor, then it is quite different. because what you're doing is you're effectively working top down and building up your page. So you might pick out an image and drop that in, or you might add in the other different blocks. But as you get used to having those blocks, you do get used to very quickly being able to put together pages. And the nice thing about having blocks is that you can then start to build up sort of pages that work nicely in sort of on mobile devices, on tablets, and on desktops. So they'll be responsive and change. And it's because it can move blocks around. So there's a lot within there that you can do, and it's quite easy to just sort of start getting some content in. And the other thing, it's all very well bobbing in your content, but you need it to be customized. You want to change the way that it looks. The chances are that you won't want it to look like that I just showed you. You want it to look, present your business or your project in the best way possible. You might have a designer, or you might want to pick something off the shelf, and there are themes which you can get which will be tailored maybe towards the kind of thing that you want to do, and we'll look at those in a tick. There are plugins, so it's not just about sort of presenting some information. You might have plugins that let you have a form, a contact form. You might want something that gives you a bit of e-commerce. There are things that you'll want to do on the website which you can extend within WordPress. And there are blocks. So as I was dropping those blocks on the page, so images and paragraphs and other parts, those are the kinds of things that can be tweaked, or you can sort of like install additional ones that will give you a bit more functionality on your site. And one of the things that sort of harks back to that open source thing that I was talking about earlier is that if you can't find what you need, you can always do it yourself, or you can find a friendly developer or someone to be able to sort of put that together for you. So as soon as you open that, then it's effectively sort of infinitely sort of customizable to be able to do what it is that you want to do. So if we have a look at some of the WordPress themes, what we've got here is just a couple of themes that we see on the theme directory. Let's bob into that in here. So you'll see under appearance, we've got themes. And these are themes that are installed. We've popped this one on. This is one that we tend to use in our training. And this is called the Astra theme. And this is more of a blank canvas, which allows you to sort of like tailor your site to exactly what it is that you want to do. Whereas other themes, so if we have a look and click on the directory, you'll see that other themes will give you a lot more. So you might look at these and sort of say, well, this looks like a lovely sort of agency style site. It doesn't look like such a lovely agency site when you pop in and do the preview. But this is the kind of thing that you can do. Maybe I've got a terrible install. I think that's my install. But you can see from the images here how those themes will look when they're installed on your site. And to install it, you just click on install, and then you will activate it over on the other page. So if we go into the themes, you see how this one is the one that's running 2020, and these you can just click on activate if you want to change the look and feel. So we've chosen 2017, and if we now go and have a look at our site, you'll see that it's different. It's got all the same content, but it's presenting it in a different way. And so the theme is a way of sort of like tailoring the site to be able to look like the way that you want to present yourself. And so those themes, there's you can change them at any time, just like we did there. And there's a lot of them out there, so you're not really stuck for choice. But one of the one of the things that we kind of advise and that we go through in the course is that we suggest that you try them out. You sort of like look and sort of see what sort of fits best. So sometimes you can go for something that maybe is very tailored. So if you want to run a bakery, you might go for a bakery theme. And that might get you 70% of the way there, but getting that last bit can be quite difficult. And so you kind of have to sort of do a little bit of due diligence around your themes, just to sort of try and play and see what they are. This is one of the reasons why we choose more of a blank canvas for being able to build out the site. But the other thing that you can do is you can get a designer to put together a theme for you as well. So there's a lot of people out there who will put together the design, and then you basically just start using your site with the design that you want, that you've worked with someone to get. And these themes as well. So almost all of those themes that you see will work in a responsive way. So you'll see here, this is our site. And when it's presented on a phone, for example, you get your little hamburger menu rather than the top menu, and it collapses things down. And this is sort of a standard way of presenting things in a responsive manner. And all of that is done for you in a lot of these themes. And so you can just sort of install it, test it, how does it work on different devices? And that's a really straightforward process that you can do. The fun bit that I see anyway, is plugins. So plugins give you a lot of functionality. Basically, if you think of anything that you want to do on a website, then it almost always has been implemented by someone and it's out there as a plugin. A lot of them are free. And so there's like 55,000 plugins available. So that was the last, well, that was an account done sort of around about August, September. And it's just a case of finding which one it is you want and then clicking on install and activating it. And we can have a look. Let's have a look again. So if we go to our plugins, you'll see that we've got one on our site here, which is a contact form. And this is something that gives us this menu item here. So we've extended it already in a little way, just so that we can create a contact page. So if we click on add a plugin, you'll see that there are all these different types of plugins. These are the featured ones. And you can see that there are the kinds of things that you'll want to be doing on a day-to-day basis. So maybe sort of a bit of spam protection, a bit of troubleshooting. The interesting one is the popular. So what are people doing with plugins? Well, they're getting contact forms, they're doing some SEO, they're talking to Google and trying to sort of promote their sites. And then there are website builders. So these are things which maybe not based around those block editors, but maybe done in a slightly different way. And things like WooCommerce for e-commerce as well. So these are really easy. I'll show you how these get installed. So Yoast SEO, we'll have a look at later as well. But if I wanted to install this, I just click on the Install Now button, and you'll see that it's downloading. And what that's doing is it's pulling it down from the directory and popping it into your installation of WordPress. And then once it's in there, it's not yet running. You've got to activate it. So you click on Activate, and all that's doing is it's just making all of those hooks into WordPress and making sure that it's then activated as your site is used. And now we see it listed on our list of plugins. And again, what we've got here now is we've got a new menu item. So that plugin gives us a new menu item where we can start to fill out some of our SEO things. And we've also got, say, in our posts and pages, let's have a look at, say, a sample page. So now that we've got that plugin in, We've got additional things that we can do with the posts, so we can additionally sort of tweak that post so that it works even better with Google. And so just adding a little bit more functionality to the site is simply just a case of finding a plugin, clicking on install, and then clicking on activate. And again, there's a couple of things that you need to bear in mind. And we go through this in a bit of detail on the course. But if you see the risk, obviously, is that you'll sort of install something and it may not necessarily be precisely what you want, or it may not have been updated in a long time, or people may have used it and they may not be terribly happy with it. And so there's a little bit of due diligence that you have to do, and WordPress gives you the tools to be able to do that. It gives you information which will pop up, and you can review it, and you can review the ratings, and you can go in and review the comments as well, and sort of see what people have said about it. And so there are aspects of you're supported really when you're sort of building out your site, and WordPress gives you that support. So let's go back to our slides. And the other thing, a bit like themes really, with plugins, you can always get a developer or get somebody, you could do it yourself, to write a plugin if you can't find the functionality out there to do what it is that you want. And so it's really quite straightforward to be able to sort of add your own functionality in there. So the third part of our customization that I was talking about is building blocks. And so we've got the themes which kind of lay out the sort of templates and the way that the pages look. And you've got the functionality through the plugins. The blocks are the individual aspects within the page, and the chunks of content that make up the pages that you're using. This has been around for about a year, maybe a couple of years now, the Gutenberg editor. And when you click, you saw earlier when I was in the page, you click on a plus and it presents and shows you the different options that you can have. So let's bob in to a page again. Let's add a new page. So when we talk about a block editor, what we mean is that a page is made up of different blocks. See here where it says start writing or type to add a block or choose a block. And we can choose a block either here with this plus, and it'll give you a small selection of sort of like the kinds of blocks that you're using on the site most frequently. Or you can browse all, and you can get like a full directory here of the blocks that are available. And you'll see that there's lots of different things that you can do. So all of these things relate to things that you could drop onto the page and build out, make your pages. So things like galleries, you know, where there's multiple images together, very often used, or say specific blocks of media and text. And so you can sort of go through the blocks and sort of see what there is and use it to spark your imagination about what it is that you can have on your page. And these are all blocks that come with the default installation of WordPress. But there are plugins that are out there that give you more and maybe more sophisticated types of blocks as well. And so you might find sort of specific sliders or different types of media that you can have on your site. But like, for example, if you just wanted to put up a YouTube video, you can just sort of drop on a YouTube video into your page, give it the URL, so link to the video, and then it will sort of be on your page and play. And that process, because of the block editor, is really quite easy. And so that's sort of like the third of the trilogy of tweaks and customizations that you can do when you're building out your site. And so with those three things, you can build pretty much anything. So you use those three aspects. And the nice thing is you don't need to be a technical whiz. So with some CMSs, it's really quite technical to be able to use them. But with this, it's just a case of downloading and running and then playing and sort of seeing what things look like. And you can get yourself a lovely looking website really quite quickly. And a lot of this we sort of go through, and we'll sort of take you through that process from the start, right, to be able to have your site ready. And once you're used to it, once you've done it a couple of times as well, it's really fun to do. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at some of the how much time? Yeah, we'll have a look at some plugins that we can use as well. And one of them that we find used a lot is WooCommerce. So people want to do e-commerce, they want to sell what it is that they do, either their services or things that they make. And there's a lot of plugins out there that will give you some e-commerce. And so when you look and you start doing some research into this, you'll find that WooCommerce is used a lot and it's mentioned a lot. And it's the most popular, and that there are good reasons why. There's good reasons why it's popular, and that's because it does give you a lot. But there are others. BigCommerce looks after a lot of the fulfillment. So this is a company where you can sort of register and you sell your stuff through those. But there's a WordPress plugin, so you can have your website that sits alongside some e-commerce being delivered somewhere else. Something like easy digital downloads is superb if you've just got sort of like PDFs or ebooks or music or sort of just things that you want to sort of sell over the internet. Then easy digital downloads will give you that. And the other thing you can do is you can bob a PayPal button on. So, just get a PayPal button on, you'll get an email, and then you know that you need to sort of send somebody something, but it's just a really super easy way of getting some e-commerce up. But we'll have a quick look at the WooCommerce plugin. So this is something that takes you through the whole process of running an e-commerce site, and it's a free plugin where pretty much you can do everything with the free version. If you want to do anything extra, so say particular types of bundled products or sort of sophisticated ways of using it, then they've got plugins and you pay. But for the basic stuff, you get this free plugin, which will let you create products and track the stock that you've got. And it'll do things like work out your delivery and your tax. And it'll also manage your workflow as well. And I've been working on one site. So normally I've got a pizza demo, but I realize that my pizza demo, I've been working on tackle equipment. So I've got tackle equipment. And so this is some equipment for fishing. And there's lots of lovely stuff. I mean, so you can upload your pictures, you can present your products in a way that is really sort of normal and a way that people will recognize. There's ratings that people can put in. It'll present, you can bob it straight into the basket if you want, or you can set up a product like these beads, and you'll see there's a range of prices, and that's because you can configure them to be sort of maybe a particular size and maybe a particular color. So you can have things where you can sort of define quite complex sort of products. And this is all done within the free version. Bob it in your basket. And then go through, that's because I've been testing. And you can see your product, and then you can go through your checkout and pay. And these things plug into, it plugs into PayPal. So you can go through the standard way of paying through PayPal, or through other payment gateways as well. So you can very, very quickly and get something up and running. And if you look in the back of this, you'll see we've got some in this menu. You see we've got extra things again. These three, well, these four actually are WooCommerce. But all we've done is we've just created products, and products are just entered a bit like a page or a post or whatever. And we can pop in and we can sort of see our detail, our image. So it's very easy to pop in and just sort of get that sort of up and running quickly. And so yes, so there's other things as well that you can put in over and above, say, e-commerce. So you can do things. We, for example, use LearnPress. So LearnPress is a learning management platform or system, which lets you, well, it lets us set up a course, and we can have, say, a section on installing WordPress, a section on setting up a page, a section on designing your page. And we can do all of those, and we do those using a plugin called LearnPress. And LearnPress is nice because it also knows how to talk to WooCommerce. So very quickly, again, we've been able to sort of build up something like that. We use a plugin called Event Tickets. And Event Tickets is something that lets us sort of define events like this, and gives people the ability to book. And so we've done that again through a plugin. And a final one is that we use, say, MailChimp, and there's a MailChimp plugin, which means that people can sort of express an interest. They can go on our mailing list. If they buy something through the site, they can sort of bob on and be added, or they can opt into our mailing list. And so the MailChimp plugin will look after all of those things as well. And so very quickly, you can sort of like put together a site that does a lot of complex things. And I'll just touch on search engine optimization again. So we looked at earlier the Yoast plugin, the one that I installed. Now, search engine optimization is really important if you want Google to be able to find you. So you want your site to talk as well as possible and as sensibly as possible to search engines like Google and like Bing and like others. And SEO is the process and the group of tools that allow you to be able to do that. And one of the nice things about WordPress is that it's baked really into the core of WordPress. So SEO is right at the heart of the way that the site works. I mean, a CMS really, if it isn't helping your content be out and found, then it really isn't doing the job that it should be doing. And so it does a number of things. It sort of creates URLs that are, say, search engine friendly. And what that means is it'll take the title and it will sort of create a page with that title. So I think there's a Hello World page, for example. We have a look at this page. That's our preview. If we go to our site and we go into, say, this post. And so this is a post that's installed at the beginning. And the title of it is Hello World. So our search engine friendly URL here contains Hello World in there. So if you've got a blog post, which is sort of like the 10 best reasons why dairy milk chocolate is the best chocolate for Christmas, that will make up the URL. And so when Google sort of pulls that page, it will see that that's what the page is about. And so it helps Google and other search engines make decisions about whether or not to show your page. So WordPress will do that, but it'll do other things as well. It loads your page quickly, and that's important. Google uses that as a rule as to whether or not you're going to appear high in the link lists. And it'll also generate sitemaps. So sitemaps are a particular type of file which Google and Bing understand, and it sort of tells them about how the site is laid out. And so WordPress will do that automatically for you. So if you have a dig around and do some research on this yourself, you will find that it's sort of consistently one of the top CMSs for SEO, and it's because there are those things that are baked within it, and it's because there are other plugins as well, like Yoast, which then give you extra control over that SEO as well. Yeah, and one of the things, like I was saying earlier about the webinars that we do, we have one that's specifically on SEO. So if you're interested, we might have one listed. I can't remember, Nod or got one. We've got one listed on the website, so you can pop in there and book on if you want. But we will look at Yoast quickly. So we sort of like briefly looked at it earlier. Below the page, it came up with a panel, and this is sort of like the Yoast per page panel that you get. And Yoast really helps you tune the things that your website is doing so that it talks better to Google. So it doesn't do anything magical, but it does give you the ability to go in and edit pages and make them better. It's freemium. And what that means is that you get an awful lot for free, a bit like WooCommerce, but you then pay to unlock and to add on to the core functionality. And a good example of the kind of thing that Yoast will do is it will let you tweak and modify what the listing will look like on Google. So here we might have a page which is my food and eating site, and this is the About Us page. And we might want that to be different to the text that we have on the page. Let's go and have a look. Let's go and have a look on this. So this was, before it was a fishing site, it was about food. And this is the About Us page. And if we wanted to edit this page, if this was picked up by Google, it would just pick up the lorem ipsum, this text here. It would pick up the Yoast if I had Yoast installed on this site, which I don't think I have. Look at that. Oh, boo. Let's have a look at Yoast on here. So this is the Yoast, and this is the one that says demo site. And you see here it says, please provide a meta description. So this is the thing where Yoast will let you change a slug. Slug is just part of the URL. So we could call it hello world. Again, and you see that it sort of gives you that breadcrumb as well, the kind of thing that you would see in Google. But you can, we say hello to the world on our awesome site. This is the description that you would see within Google as well. So it gives you that kind of level of control over what you can do. And it gives you other tools as well, like an analysis of the page, whether or not it's going to work well with Google. And so all of these things are things that you get just by sort of like downloading and clicking install. It will also do things like it'll tell Google, it'll give it a bit of what's called schema data. It'll help advise what kind of page you're looking at. And other plugins will do this as well. So you get an events plugin and it'll tell Google, you know, this is specifically an event or a recipe plugin. And it'll say, here's a recipe. And this is how Google is able to sort of like present things like recipes and shopping in the way that it does, because those websites are telling Google already, look, I'm a recipe, look, I'm a product. And so Google can present them in the right way. And so using these tools you can then use WordPress in order to be able to do that. We've also got multi-user options. So it's not just yourself who's using it. You might have other people who are using it as well. You might be the administrator, but you might have people who are writing, editing, and you can create all of those people with different accounts, different logins, and they've got different permissions, so they don't have like full control of the website. And all of that comes bundled in. And the other thing that you need to bear in mind is security. And basically anything that's on the web, on the internet, you need to consider the security of, and WordPress really is no different in that. And there's a couple of aspects, but one is always just making sure that you're running the latest version of what it is. And so WordPress has done a lot over the last couple of years to auto-install plugins and auto-update plugins and auto-update themes, but also, and particularly in the next version that comes out at the end of the week as well, it's sort of updating the core WordPress as well, and making sure that you're running the latest version of the core as well. And this isn't some kind of set it and forget it, but it does mean that if you do forget it, you're basically looked after. And so there's a lot in there. So it is something that is constantly sort of reviewed and improved with new versions of WordPress. Kind of the final bits, really, in terms of why would you choose WordPress, is the help and support that you find as well. That there's a lot out there. So because there's so many sites out on the internet, there's so many people using it, you'll find that there's a lot of support and lots of help out there for you. There's a lot of designers and developers and people like ourselves who you can go to for support, and lots of user groups and websites where you can go as well. If you just type a query into Google, you'll find that it'll probably point you over to somewhere like Stack Overflow or somewhere else. And you'll very often find that the question you have has already been asked and has already been answered. And so there's a lot of information out there for you. And there's a lot of information, as we saw earlier, within the plugins itself, with the window that pops up. There's you can contact the developers directly through that. And so there is that sort of support and route through as you go that way. So that almost wraps up what we're talking about this morning. So why would you choose WordPress, really? Just to summarize, you've got WordPress, or you've got your sort of handcrafted dancing hamster site. Why would you go with WordPress? Well, you get a lot, and you get an awful lot for free, and you get to own that content. So whilst it's not the kind of thing that you think about day to day, and when you're actually using the site, but fundamentally underlying it, you've got control. It's customizable, so you can quite easily sort of tailor it to be exactly what you want. And you're not on your own. There are good people, there's a good number of people out there who are out there who can help you and want to help you be able to put together the best kind of site that you can. There's the community, and there's websites, and there's training resources that we do, and training resources that others do. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and we can sort of help point you in the right direction for all of those. And so there's some next steps that you can do straight away. We've got some resources on our site. We've got our Build a Site in an Hour video, which is a brilliant sort of going through a WordPress, a vanilla WordPress installation, a bit like you saw earlier, installing the theme and just having a single page site which has everything that's needed in order to get across a business, just done really quickly, but delves into many of the different aspects of building a site. You'll get the link for that with the slides here. We've got an SEO for small business guide. So again, it will go into the detail of how SEO works, how you can do it, the kinds of things that you can do to improve your own SEO, and that can be downloaded from the website. And we've got a video library, which is building every week, where we sort of look at different aspects of WordPress or different aspects of the kinds of marketing and digital marketing that you might be doing, and help you with what it is that you're doing there. And that's on the website as well. And all of that is there for you for free. I've got WordPress training as well. And so if you want help and support with building out a fully functional site, then we've got the training course, so the video course that we've got. You can sign up for that. That's normally £100 for all of the videos that we've got on there. Included in that as well, we give you a practice website with its own practice domain. You can go in and you can try all of the different things with WordPress without necessarily affecting your own site. And hidden away, you can just sort of do that work yourself. All of that is there. It's normally 100. We've got it for £50 today, and we've got a course code, WordP course 50, which if you use it by the 15th of December, that gets you the 50% off, and so that's well worth using. We've had lots of lovely reviews, and of course it comes with a money back guarantee as well. There are some lovely reviews on the site from people who've done it, and you can peruse those. And that really covers what we're going to talk about this morning, except for questions, if we have some. Rachel, do we have any?
Yes. Please, could you talk a little bit more about the differences between WordPress.com and WordPress.org?
Sure. Well, first of all, a teeny tiny bit of history, which is really that they set up WordPress.org. They set up the sort of blogging platform, and then to get some money from it, legitimately, they set up WordPress.com and provided a hosted version of the WordPress. Once you start doing that, you have to put limits on the kinds of things that people can do. So you saw, as we were going through, the kinds of customizations and things and plugins that you can add, and all of that sort of adds to the heft of your site, you know, how much work it has to do and how big your site is. And so what they had to do as sort of a decision was really to sort of limit the kinds of things that people can do on WordPress.com. And this changes. So over time, you can do more stuff on WordPress.com. But in many ways, it's a bit of a catch-up, because you can still do more on WordPress.org, and you've still got more flexibility. So in the kinds of plugins that you can use and the kinds of themes that you can use, and then in the way that you use your site as well. I mean, WordPress.com is fantastic, and you can get up and running really quickly in there as well. And some of the things that you learn in there will help you with running a WordPress.org site as well. But you don't have really the flexibility that you do within WordPress.org.
Okay, thank you. If you've got a site built on something else, Wix in this case, how do you get that into WordPress?
Lorna, did you want to take that? I don't mind. I can sort of talk about it a little bit if you want.
She's off mute now.
I'm off mute now. With all of those, with Wix, with Squarespace, and with Weebly, and so on, there are downloads available to a greater or lesser extent. So we've just done this for a Squarespace site, for example, which lets you download most of the content and load it up into WordPress. But inevitably, there's a fair amount of manual toing and froing. So you'll never get a perfect copy of the site. With some of them, I can't remember off the top of my head whether this applies to Wix or Weebly. Effectively, the amount of work that would be involved in doing that is more or less the same as basically building the site again or manually copying and pasting pages. So sometimes some parts of the site, like the images won't come across, or the images will come across, but the pages won't come across. So there's no super slick way of doing that, but there are always ways of getting what you want somehow.
Okay, thank you. How do you know what plugin to choose? So I think this is like when you go to look at plugins, there's a massive array of them. How do you know which one?
Okay. Let's have a look quickly at the plugin directory. So, I mean, in the first instance, there is a search, and so you'll have an idea of the kind of thing that you want to do. So, say if I was interested in backups, for example, I could search, and I will get a bunch of plugins that will provide backups. And so the question then is kind of which of these do I want to use? And so as I touched on, you kind of use the ratings and the comments and say whether or not something was recently updated. So once you understand what it is that you want to do and the kinds of plugins that are there and available, you then really, in choosing your plugin, you kind of want to then want to think about things like, has it been recently updated? Is it maintained? Or am I going to be installing something that somebody wrote maybe a few years ago and doesn't really have the time anymore to be able to update it? And these you can tell from things like this last updated and whether or not it's compatible with your version. So those are the cues really that you need to do to work out which plugin.
Very good, thank you. I don't think I've got any more popped through. No, I've just checked in both. No more questions. So I'm going to say thank you very much to all the people who have attended today. As I said, there'll be an email comes out later today that gives you a link to watch the session back and has a copy of the slides and so on, so you can download those and check all the links and things that are in there. Have a great rest of the day, and thank you very much, Lorna, and particularly Steve, for your presentation today. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.